Hi, so tonight I'm going to go over the test review. You should have this on your test review, and you'll also be able to use it on your test. These are all the formulas. So make sure you use this. It's on your test when you see it on Wednesday. So here's the first question. Try to do this on your own first and pause it before I go over the answer. So this is a parallelogram. The parallelogram, it has the same formula as a rectangle. So the formula for a rectangle is length times width, or some people say base times height. Okay, so area equals either length times width or base times height. It doesn't matter which one you want to say. So we'll just use base times height. So area equals base times the height. So my area is going to be, here's my base, 7.7, and my height is always going to be from the top straight down. It makes a right angle with the base or a line containing that base. So my height would be 2 meters and my base is 7.7 meters. So it's 7.7 meters times 2 meters. So my area of this parallelogram is going to be 7.7 times 2, which is 15.4. 15.4 meters times meters is meters squared. So 15.4 meters squared. So all you're doing is base times height. It's the same formula as a rectangle. Base times height. Okay, number 2. Find the area of this figure. So the area of this figure, and first let's see what shape it is. It's a triangle. We did this before we left for spring break. So we said that a triangle is just a rectangle, the same formula for a rectangle, except a triangle is a rectangle cut in half. So this goes away. So all that's left is half of the rectangle. So it's the same formula. It's the same formula as a rectangle, but divided by 2 because it's half of it. So I get rid of this, cut this off, so it's only half of the rectangle. So the rectangle is base times height, same formula, but I'm going to divide it by 2 is the area of a triangle. It's base times height, but divided by 2. So that's my area, base times height divided by 2. So I look right here. Here's my base. This whole thing here is my base. The whole thing, this whole thing is my base. And remember, we talked about the height that you use is the one that has to be perpendicular to the base. So you always have to have a right angle. So this is my height. So it's going to be 8 times, well, what is the length of your base? The whole base. This whole thing is my base. So 11 plus 3 is 14. So it's going to be, I'm going to write it right here. So you can see area equals base times the height divided by 2. So my base is 11, 12, 13, 14. 14 feet times my height is 8 feet and divided by 2. So go ahead and do that. It's base times height, but it's half. So you got to divide by 2. Do that real quick. What do you get? 14 times 8 and then divided by 2. You should have gotten 56. And feet times feet is feet squared. So you got 56 feet squared. So there's that answer. All right, let's do number 3. So number 3 says, find the area of the following figure. This is a trapezoid. All a trapezoid is, remember we talked about this also before spring break ended. Before we left for spring break. And we said you could think of it as a triangle that has the top cut off. So this goes away. So then you're left with a figure that looks like this. And this is a trapezoid. It's just a triangle with the top cut off. So it's the same formula for the area of a triangle. Base times height. So it's the same thing, but now you have 2 bases. You have the bottom and the top. You have 2 parallel bases, the bottom and the top. Remember we talked about which one you need to use? You can't use the bottom only. You can't use the top only. You have to use both of them. So you combine them. So you're going to do base 1 plus base 2 times the height. This is my height. The height is a perpendicular distance from the base. So 8.8. So my height is 8.8. And which base do I use? You have to use both of them. So I'm going to do 11.9. Oh, and divided by 2. Remember that? Because it's the area of a triangle. So triangle is always divided by 2. So I'm gonna write down lower. I'm gonna use 11.9, my first base, the bottom base, plus the top base, 4.3, times the height, 8.8, then divide it by 2. So 11.9 plus 4.3, 11.9 plus 4.3 gives me 16.2. So 16.2 times 8.8 divided by 2. And this is miles. So 4.3 is 16.2 times 8.8. And then divide that by 2. You get 71.28. 71.28 miles squared. So all I did was it's the same thing. Base times height, but you have 2 bases. So you're going to add them together. And I get 16.2 times the height, 8.8. And then I divide the whole thing by 2. Okay, so now we have a rhombus. So a rhombus is a parallelogram. You could use the same formula as we did for number 1. Same formula, but I don't know the sides. So I can't use that formula, so I'm going to use this formula here. A rhombus is diagonal 1 times diagonal 2, and then you just take half of that. So here are my diagonals. So this is, see how it's in red? This whole thing is 30. So that means each one would be 15 and 15, right? So 15 and 15 is 30, so the whole thing is 30. So my formula is diagonal 1. Diagonal 1 times diagonal 2, and 1/2 of that. So I'm going to do diagonal 1, I'm going to write it down here, times diagonal 2, and then divide by 2. Okay, so let's see. I'm sure you can see this. Okay, so my first diagonal is 30, so it's 15. This is 15, this is 15, so 15, 15 is 30. So I'm going to put 30 times my diagonal. My second diagonal is this one here. The whole thing is 22, so that means the whole thing is 22. So that means this is 11 and 11, so I'm going to put 22 divided by 2. So what do you get? 30 times 22 divided by 2 is 330. So this up here gives me 660 divided by 2 is 330 units squared. So my answer would be A. So all you're doing is multiplying the diagonals. 22 times 30. Sometimes they're not going to give you the whole thing. They'll say 15. So if it's 15, you know it's 15, 15. The reason I know it's 30 is because it was marked with this red squiggly. All of that is 30. This is marked with the blue squiggly. All of this is 22. Okay. Next one. It says, find the width of the following figure. The area is 312. So they're giving you the answer. So this is a rectangle. So the formula for area of a rectangle, so area of a rectangle equals base times height. So my area equals base times height. Well, I don't know. It says find the width. So base and height, I could also say width, right? Width and height. So I'm going to put, I'll just put W for width. Width times my height is 24. So the base, you can call it base, you can call it width. So my area is my width times 24. So my area here, it says it's 312. So I'm going to write 312 is my area equals my width times 24. Then I use my my algebra skills. How would I find W? I'm multiplying by 24, so I'm going to do the inverse. I'm going to the inverse or the opposite of multiplication is division. So I'm going to divide by 24. That goes away. Divide by 24. So my width equals 312 divided by 24, which is 13. So my width equals 13 inches. So we did this in the other YouTube video on lesson 1. So that means that 24 times 13, so that means my width is 13 inches. So let's check it. So 24 times 13 should give me 312. So 24 times 13 should give me 312. Let's check. 24 times 13 has to give me 312. Yep, it's correct. See that answer? So this works out. So my answer is 13. Okay, let's do this next one here. All right, this one says, find the height h of the following triangle if the area is 72 feet. So my area, again, they're giving you the answer, so you're going to use algebra skills. So my area is 72 feet, and I have my base, and I want to find my height. So the area of a triangle is base times height divided by 2, right? So my area, they're saying, is 72. So I'm going to put, for the A, I'm going to put 72 equals, base is 16. So 16 times something, I don't know what that is. I'm going to put an H, divided by 2 equals 72. So because there's no addition or subtraction here, I can just divide this. So 16 divided by 2 is 8. So I'm going to write 72 equals, 16 divided by 2 is 8H. And then what I do next is I am going to look at this. It says 8 times h. What can I do to get h by itself? Well, this is multiplying, so I'm going to do the inverse operation. But multiplication is division, so I'm going to divide by 8. Divide by 8. So 72 divided by 8. Can you guys do that real quick? Good job. So you should know that one would be 9. So 9 equals my height. So I'm going to try it now. I'm going to do 16 times 9 divided by 2, and that should give me 72. And that's correct because I can do my mental math. 2 can go into 16 8 times, and I already know that 8 times 9 is 72. Checks out. Okay, number 7. This one says, find B if the area of the following trapezoid is 165 inches squared. So the area of the trapezoid, remember trapezoid, if I extend this, it's just a triangle. So it's the same formula, base times height. So I have this base